Today we're diving deep into the fascinating exploration of John the Baptist's historical role, as reimagined by Dr. McGrath.
I'm really excited about this. So we're looking at John not just as an add-on to Jesus' story, but as this major, revolutionary figure in his own right, correct?
Exactly, it's like John isn't merely the precursor to Jesus. He's uh, a trailblazer in his own right, reshaping religious practices, particularly around baptism, and even influencing early Christian thought.
Right, so in this view, baptism isn't just a ritual, but a kind of temple alternative and even, dare I say, a substitute for sacrifice?
Yes, exactly. It's presented as a kind of symbolic immersion, almost like a ritual that acted as a representation of renewal or, as a substitute sacrifice.
Wow, that really flips the usual perspective. And this reconfiguration of baptism really challenges the conventional narrative, doesn't it?
It sure does. Dr. McGrath's work implies that by recovering John's distinct program, we shift how we consider the origins of Christian rituals and the whole narrative of repentance and renewal in the Second Temple context.
So, would you say that the idea here is that John's message laid the groundwork or even provided the blueprint for Jesus' later teachings?
That's right. It's like John's influence can be seen as a foundational layer, almost a blueprint that not only prepared the ground but also directly shaped Jesus' sayings. It's like John's theology is echoed in the later narratives.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, do we get a sense of how John's movement extended beyond the Jordan into broader Second Temple Judaism and even into realms like the Mandaean tradition?
Absolutely, and it's really compelling. John's dynamic movement not only spread across Jewish society but also left traces, as seen in the Mandaean Book of John, which underscores his lasting afterlife in religious thought and shows that his influence was widespread.
So, it's like his impact wasn't just confined to one tradition, but became a sort of common language among different groups during that period.
Precisely. It's like a ripple effect. John's ideas were so transformative that they reverberated far beyond just his immediate circle. In fact, some argue that his call to repentance and renewal wasn't a reaction to something new, but was embedded in earlier apocalyptic urgencies that many of his contemporaries shared.
That does suggest a real shift in the timeline. Like, these themes of repentance and renewal are recontextualized when you consider John as a pioneering figure, rather than as a mere precursor to Jesus.
Exactly. It's like recentering the timeline. Instead of just viewing these as innovations introduced by Jesus, we can see them as part of an ongoing, vibrant movement that John spearheaded.
I see. But don't you think that sometimes there's a risk of overemphasizing John's role? I mean, isn't it possible to view him as significant without necessarily rewriting the well-established narrative of Jesus?
That's a fair point. While Dr. McGrath's approach does reframe our understanding by elevating John's historical and theological independence, it's important to balance that with the recognition of Jesus' unique contributions. It's a bit like arguing that the architect of a building should be recognized alongside the builder.
Right. So the argument isn't that John completely overshadows Jesus, rather that his role is more pivotal and innovative than previously thought.
Exactly. It's a complementary reinterpretation, not a total rewrite. By giving John his due credit as a major religious innovator, we actually gain a more nuanced understanding of early Christian origins.
Yeah. And what about his ritual practice? It seems like the idea of immersion in baptism, was that really seen as a substitute for some sort of, sacrificial system?
Right. Think of it as a ritual that symbolically took on the role of sacrifice. It wasn't just about getting wet. It was about a complete transformative act that mirrored the idea of atonement without the bloodshed. It's, quite innovative for its time.
Yeah. It almost has a revolutionary feel to it, like an early form of spiritual rebranding. And isn't it fascinating how this reimagination also sets the stage for later theological debates?
Absolutely, it's like, You can see a lineage of thought where these ideas of repentance, renewal, and even immersion as a substitute for sacrifice get reinterpreted over time. It calls us to re-examine not only the historical context, but also the evolution of religious practices.
And this really shakes up the typical way we view early Christian origins, doesn't it? John becomes not just a side note, but a central chapter in that narrative.
Exactly. It's a recalibration of the story. John is repositioned as a formidable innovator whose own movement had a life and message independent of Jesus, which then influenced and intermingled with Jesus' mission.
You know, it's almost like comparing two master chefs, each with a distinct flavor. But John's recipe, in this case, turns out to be the unexpected secret ingredient that really shapes the final dish.
What a neat analogy, yes. John's message, with its emphasis on immersion and renewal, sort of preps the palate for what comes later. And while Jesus obviously brings his own recipe to the table, the historical John provides the foundational taste that we might have completely overlooked otherwise.
That's really a clever way of looking at it. And, does Dr. McGrath touch on how modern scholarship can test these historical legends and memories?
Yes, indeed. The historical critical methods are key here. It's like, using modern science to test ancient recipes, confirming which parts of the tradition are historically sound versus later embellishments. It brings an analytical rigor to the interpretation of legends and oral traditions that have grown over time.
Yeah, this seems to really democratize the narrative, making it less about a singular, linear story and more about a multifaceted interplay of traditions, memories, and innovations.
Precisely. And by recentering John, we're not diminishing Jesus. We're enriching the context in which Jesus operated. It's like, viewing a mosaic where every piece, no matter how small, contributes to the whole picture.
That reminds me, there's also an interesting angle about how John's role gets reconsidered in relation to repentance and apocalyptic urgency. Could you expand on that a bit?
Sure thing. The narrative suggests that the call to repentance, the urgency for renewal, wasn't born solely out of Jesus' encounters. It was very much present in John's movement, emphasizing an imminent transformation of society, almost like an apocalypse in the sense of drastic change, not in doom but in renewal.
So in that light, the new covenant or the new order wasn't a fresh idea instated by Jesus. It's more like an inherited, amplified mission.
Exactly. John's message had already established the call for a radical transformation, and Jesus' teachings inherit, adapt, and sometimes even overturn that established framework. It creates a continuum rather than a break.
That's really illuminating. And I can see how integrating these historical insights can enrich both academic discussions and personal faith journeys.
Absolutely, it bridges the gap between historical critical studies and lived religious traditions. It reminds us that these ancient figures were dynamic, complex, and very much products of their time, yet their legacies continue to echo in modern thought.
Yeah, so, in wrapping up, it seems like the big takeaway is to appreciate John the Baptist not merely as a supporting character, but as a central influencer in the formation of early Christian practice and belief.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that John's pioneering actions in ritual immersion and his call for repentance represent a critical layer in understanding the evolution of religious narratives. It forces us to re-examine early Christian origins with fresh eyes, ones that see history as a vibrant tapestry of ideas, movements, and innovations.
Wow, what an incredible perspective. It's definitely food for thought, challenging us to rethink assumptions while embracing the complexity of our historical roots.
Absolutely. And it shows the value of re-engaging with these historical figures through rigorous scholarship. It's like, each new study unwraps layers of tradition, inviting us to see the bigger, richer picture of our shared past.
Thanks for the deep dive today. It really makes you reflect on the broader implications of these historical insights for both scholarly work and personal belief.
For sure, and it reminds us that history is never static. It's always open to reinterpretation as we uncover more layers of truth. Thanks for joining in on this engaging journey.
Absolutely. Thanks for the discussion. It's been enlightening and truly thought-provoking.